Hey everybody, this is Doug Mark, President at Learning Zen, and we're here today with 5 franchising questions. And my guest is Steve Beagelman. He's President and CEO of SMB Franchise Advisors. Steve, welcome to the call. How you doing?
Hey, Doug, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for coming on. Not everybody knows this, but Steve and I have been, friends for a long time in the franchising industry. From the day one for me was 10 years ago when I first met you. But for all of those people who may not know about your organization and what you do, could you tell us a little bit about SMB?
Sure. SMB Franchise Advisors is a franchise consulting firm. We help people franchise their business. So if somebody has a great idea, a great concept, a pizza shop, a dry cleaner, a handyman business, whatever type of business it may be, and they've grown their business and they're thinking about how to expand it, franchising could be a great vehicle for them as opposed to opening up an additional location themselves. So we help people go through that process and evaluate whether franchising is right for them. And if it is, as a growth vehicle, we help take them through the process, getting their FDD created with the franchise attorney that we work with, creating their franchise operations manuals, creating their franchise sales processes, their website verbiage, sales process, everything that they need related to franchising their business, we help them with. And then we also work with existing franchisors on putting better systems and processes in place. So we've worked with brands that have 3, 4, 500 locations open and operating who come back to us and say, listen, our growth is kind of stalled. We're really not sure what's going on. We want you to come in and evaluate our systems, our process, our people, everything that we're doing. So we'll go in there and we'll do that and we'll help them grow. Or we've had companies come to us and say, we need you to facilitate our franchise advisory council. We don't really know how to do that, or we want somebody external to do that. So we'll go in there and we'll do that for them as well. So we've helped our clients in all different aspects and facets of franchising. We've helped our clients do private equity transactions over the last several years. That's been a lot of fun as well. So franchising's great. Franchising's what we do every day. We've worked with almost 300 brands now over the last 10 years.
Wow, that's really impressive. In fact, the 300 number was even larger than I thought. I tried to do my research before we got on our call, and I know that I know doing this since, I think it said on the website 2009, and at the time it was 200 brands. Now that we're up to 300. And you've been on both sides of the coin, because I believe that you were on the franchisor side of things before doing franchise consulting. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry a little more than 30 years. I kind of hate to admit that, but
Yeah.
yes, a little more than 30 years. I started in this business when I was in high school, working in a family business in the packaging and shipping industry, and we grew that business to over 130 locations in 17 states. And I was a kid. I was in high school, junior, senior year, learning the business. Went off to college and literally sold franchises from a college dorm room, which today you couldn't do. The caller ID would show up on the phone as the college. I went to Pace University in Westchester County, New York, but back then there was no caller ID. And I literally called potential franchisees from my college dorm room at night, would set up appointments, meet them in between classes, and then would sell franchises. And I was selling 2 franchises a month. And although I was 18 and 19 years old, I looked like I was 22 or 23, which at the time was great. Not so good now, but then it was great. And really that's got me started in franchising. And then back in 1991, I actually started a food delivery concept, very similar to what we all know as Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats today. I created that industry back in 1991 where we delivered food for 20 or 30 different restaurants to your home or office for the same price you'd pay as if you went there. And I would get a discount from the restaurant. That's how I'd make my money. And my drivers didn't have cell phones. We communicated through two-way walkie-talkies through Nextel, if you remember those two-way walkie-talkies. My drivers didn't have GPS. I wish we had GPS. We had Hagstra maps, and they would look at the map and go, "Oh, Smith Street. Oh, do I turn left or right?" Technology has totally changed that industry, and Grubhub and DoorDash and Uber Eats and Postmates are, incredible now. But we created that business back in 1991 when I was in college. I franchised the business when I graduated. I grew it to about 35 locations by the time I was 24. And then I sold my company to my largest competitor, called Takeout Taxi, in 94. And really that springboarded my career in franchising. I grew their company to over 100 units in a couple years, and then went on, was a senior executive for several franchise brands. I built a little Italian ice chain called Rita's Italian Ice to over 350 locations in 5 years, and then was the senior executive at Salad Works, and then eventually the CEO at a chain of tanning salons called Hollywood Tans. A private equity firm bought them and brought me on to run it. So did that, and then 2009 is when I left and started the consulting business in 2009, 2010, and the rest has been history. It's been a lot of fun. We have an amazing team of people, about 10 people on our team that support our clients every day, and we have really extraordinary relationships with our clients. We really are family-based, relationship-based. To us, it's about helping our clients long-term for the journey, not just about, the quick fix, or, it's not a race where we got to get done in 3 months. It's more, a marathon. And, it's not a short-term, race that we're trying to accomplish. So.
Well, amazing story. I guess I have you to blame for my addiction to frozen custard and Italian ice now.
Well, I didn't create it, Doug. I just helped build it. So the founders of the business, the Tumalo brothers, amazing guys, and John has since passed, but his brother Bob originally founded it, and John was very involved in the business, and just super smart guys. And I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to be involved with both of them, and some amazing people that I met along the way at Rita's. Great brand, and today has probably around 600 locations. But
Wow.
I still love the product myself and still
Yeah.
eat it on a regular basis. So.
Yeah, there's a little concept by me in Rockville, Maryland, that has 2 locations right now. That I'm pretty interested in seeing how far they grow this thing, because they've taken that concept that you all built and really just kind of went literally bananas with it as far as their crazy flavors. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on those guys moving forward.
Yeah, there's some great little small mom and pops that, some of them grow into some amazing brands. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure if you had asked Bob Tumalo back in 1984, if, what his vision was, he probably would have told you, "Oh, I'll have a couple locations." He never envisioned, growing something to 300-400 locations across the country. So.
so you've been doing this since 2009, and now you're working with a lot of franchisors and kind of helping them on this side of the coin. What's your favorite thing about working with a new concept that's thinking about franchising?
For us, it's a lot of fun to learn about lots of different businesses, right? So, we could be having a conversation with a concept that's in the cheesesteak business. Then we could be talking to somebody who's, do environmental cleaning in hospitals. Then we could be talking about somebody who's doing junk removal. So the great thing about what we do as franchise consultants is we get this, hear about all these different businesses all the time, right? So we learn about so many different industries, childcare, senior care. I mean, pet industry is off the charts.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different businesses that, as opposed to when I was just running one brand, I was living that brand every single day, all the time. Now we may work on 5 different brands in a given day. And then 5 different brands the next day, and 5 different brands the next day. So for us, it's a lot of fun to get educated on all these different concepts. And it's
Yeah.
also a lot of fun to work on different aspects for the brand. So, a year ago, I helped a 100-unit chain, do a private equity transaction. A couple of years ago, I helped one of our clients acquire a competitor that was 3 times the size of them. So we work on lots of different things, not just writing their ops manual or getting their franchise disclosure document done with the franchise attorneys. We do a lot of different things with our clients. We help them, award that first franchise, have their first franchise conference, all these different types of things that are so much fun. And we really, enjoy it so much, but we really get to learn about different businesses. And, Doug, the other thing is we don't just take any brand. So we've had plenty of people contact us that we say, you're not ready to franchise. One of our most successful clients that we launched into franchising, we told them they weren't ready to franchise when they first contacted us.
Hmm.
And, they said, well, what do we need to do? And we gave them a list of things to work on. And a year and a half later, they called me up and said, do you remember who we are? I said, yes, absolutely. They said, we did everything you said. I said, okay, let's go through the list. And we did. And I said, okay, now you're ready to franchise. And today they have 250 franchises in the last, 5 to 7 years. So, it's great. I mean, that's really, rewarding for me when I get off an airplane and I land in, Denver, Colorado, or I land in, Fort Lauderdale, or wherever it is, and I see a sign or I see a retail store that shows that brand. I mean, that's pretty darn exciting for me. And I know it's exciting for the founders of the concept for sure.
Yeah. One of my favorite things when I'm on the road is, driving by a brand that, we've helped somewhere along the
Sure.
way, help them grow their business. And there's this real sense of pride, I think, that, comes over
Absolutely.
me when I'm traveling. And I couldn't ask for a better segue question, because my next question was, hey, in typical years, guys like you and me are traveling all the time. And I know when I'm on the road, I have certain things that, sort of remind me of home or make me feel kind of comfortable when I'm out there. When you're traveling, do you have a franchise brand that you always try to stop into, for a meal or a service or something like that?
Well, I would say that, we talked about frozen desserts before. So I'm a frozen dessert junkie. So
Yeah.
for me,
Okay.
it's always finding that franchise brand that's a frozen dessert. So
Yeah.
again, love Ritas, but I
Yeah.
also like brands like Ritter's and Brewster's and places like that. So if I'm traveling and I see some of those brands, I get super excited and I'll certainly go and have it. Nothing better than a great milkshake or whatever it may be. So I'm a frozen dessert guy. But for me, I do like to visit franchise brands when I travel into markets, especially ones that I may not see in my home market.
Yeah.
And you're right. Look, we're used to traveling, and we're not traveling right now because of COVID. What's going on in the world? But we're doing a lot of Zooms, just like we're doing right now,
Yeah.
and it's been very effective for communicating with our clients. A lot of our clients are doing Zoom discovery days with potential franchisees, and a lot of them are awarding franchises. People are still making buying decisions because guess what? Unemployment's pretty high right now. They
Yeah.
got to do something. They're looking at doing something. And in most cases, they're not going to open until next year, even if they start the process now. So, service business, they'll open in 2, 3 months, but service businesses, you can open and operate now. But retail businesses maybe take a little longer, a restaurant or, a retail business of some sort or a gym, whatever the case may be. And by that time, hopefully, COVID will be long behind us. Let's all hope.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you think are some effective franchise development skills and techniques that have changed because of COVID?
Yeah, I think right now what you're seeing with franchise development now that's different than prior was a lot of virtual. I mean, everything's virtual, right? So
Yeah.
it's virtual discovery days, it's virtual sales process, so much so that you're going to the point where they're awarding franchises and you're signing franchise agreements without ever meeting in person. And that didn't happen before. I
Yeah.
mean, it just didn't. It didn't exist. So but now it's common practice, and everybody's doing it. So, the famous word that everybody's using is pivoting, right? Everybody's pivoting all over the place. I'm sure you're pivoting with your business. Us, everybody's pivoting, right? So,
Yeah.
franchise development teams are pivoting all over, and they're finding ways to make it work. But you're seeing the virtual process now. You're seeing group discovery days virtually, people taking you through the process and then going to close and people, starting the process. And, the good news, bad news is real estate is becoming available. I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of, real estate that's vacant. I think the National Restaurant Association said like 30% of restaurants won't reopen, which is horrible and horrific, but it presents opportunities for other restaurants to come in and get a pre-built restaurant less expensive. And so a franchisee can get in for maybe 30% less than what they originally were going to spend, which is a positive. The plumbing's there, the electric's there, the floors in place, the bathrooms, etc. So I mean, there are positives and negatives, and brands will continue to still grow even throughout this pandemic, unfortunately, that we're going through.
Yeah, and we have seen some brands respond and actually go through a growth spurt as this happened.
Yep.
Some people might have been better positioned at the time to handle things like curbside pickup, for example.
Hmm.
That's something that's kind of gone crazy, and I don't know if there's any other sort of examples of like, what are things that, like, let's say an emerging franchise could do to maybe support their growth goals right now. Any thoughts
Well,
on that?
yeah, I mean, just like you said, curbside is huge now. Third party delivery, right? We talked about
Yeah.
how I got started in that industry, 30 years ago with my food delivery concept before it existed. Today, That's critical in the restaurant sector, right? I mean, if you weren't doing third party delivery before, you need it now to help you keep your lights on and pay your rent and all those other things. So I was just talking to one of our clients the other day who had not been doing it 3 months ago, who's doing
Right.
it now, and he said it's accounting to $700-800 a day. So although his margin isn't the same, it's additional revenue for him, and it's helping pay his bills. So you have to think differently than you did before. And you're exactly right. Curbside pickup, right? We ordered from a restaurant just last night who said, stay in your car. We'll bring
Yeah.
it out to you. Just call when you get here. Great. Love it. That's terrific. I like their approach. So, and a lot of restaurants are doing that. So, whether it's restaurants, service businesses are doing really well right now. Home based
Yes.
businesses, they're growing, they're awarding franchises. A lot of companies are doing online and virtual training, Doug, which is right up your alley with Learning Zen, right? So we're seeing that a lot. Don't come in to train. Everything is virtual, everything is online. So we're seeing that with companies too. And a lot of them who really didn't put a lot of emphasis on technology before are
Right.
now leaning towards it and saying, oh my gosh, look what we need to do. And again, getting back to the word pivot, we better pivot. And the question is it going to be here to stay? Are we going to go back to the way things were? Probably somewhere in between, right? I mean, we all want to go back to in person, face to face,
We do.
because we're human beings. We love that,
Yeah.
right? We love to interact with each other, right? But at the same time, I don't know if it's going to go back to exactly the way it was, where we were packing 80,000 people in a stadium on top of each other. Maybe
Yeah.
it's somewhere in between, right?
So Steve, you were talking a little bit about training and virtual training, and more franchisors are getting comfortable with that notion. How important do you feel that, quality training is towards the success of a franchise?
Well, training is the backbone for any business and especially for a franchise. So, what you're seeing more now, Doug, is more online training and more virtual training than you ever have before. And more franchisors are adjusting, pivoting, however you want to call it, their process to being allowing for that for franchisees. So, which bodes well for Learning Zen, right? Because they need that, online learning tool to give to their franchisees. So we're seeing that a lot. A lot more franchisors that are expanding rapidly are going that route, and that's a good direction. Hopefully, that will continue even beyond the pandemic, and I think you will see a lot of that virtual training and online training out there. So there's still some personal training that
Yeah.
happens in person whenever possible, but you are seeing a lot more virtual out there. There's no question about it during today's times.
Well, and you're right. I think we see a lot of owners, franchisors, CEOs, um, you know, are out there supporting their franchisees. I mean, in a lot of cases, you read about CEOs getting PPP loans for their franchisees, and that's great because we really needed the franchisors to provide leadership at this time. I know how important that is because the fact of the matter is we're going to run into situations where franchisees are challenged on some of the concepts they're trying to roll out. For example, if the franchisee says, hey, masks are required for people to enter our store, well, have we as the franchisor empowered that franchisee to handle what is the inevitable, which is you're going to get somebody who's a little disgruntled about wearing a face mask? Are they going to lash out at your team? We need to kind of provide leadership at the franchisor level to help empower these franchisees how to handle that situation. And I think that's a really important one that I think we've had to deal with, and we realize, oh heck, I've got to get a course together really quick and disseminate this information so all of my owners know exactly how to handle it when somebody doesn't follow one of our new policies. And I think that's where the online world has really lent itself. You can create trainings quickly, disseminate them. Maybe they're not perfect. We didn't spend hundreds of hours creating an instructional design principle around how to answer a question from a customer, but we did think about, oh my gosh, we've got to empower them on how to approach that customer in a professional manner. I think that that's something that online training will help us leverage, which is quick training, quick turnarounds. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, there's no doubt that franchisors have to again adjust quickly to what's going on in the world. And you're right, there are businesses that are going to open, retail businesses and establishments, and somebody's going to walk in inevitably without a mask, just like you just said. And how does the employee, the 18-year-old behind the counter, deal with that situation without making it escalate to a tough
Yep.
situation? And how do they deal with it, right? So what's the proper training mechanisms that we put in place as the franchisor to train the franchisee and to train the hourly employees to deal with those situations, right? So those are real important factors as you get through online training, and updating operations manuals and procedures and processes, because today's times are very different than we've ever dealt with, you know, over the last, 50, 100 years.
Fluid. That's what I keep talking about. Right now, it's
Good
everything
word.
is fluid.
Very good word.
Um, yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, so last question for me is, can you talk a little bit about your sort of selection criteria when deciding to work with, let's say, an emerging franchise group?
For us, it's all about the relationship, Doug. So we want to have a strong relationship with the client, and they have to be the right fit. And just like you said with Learning Zen, for us, we're not for everybody. We're relationship based. We believe we used to host 3 networking events a year in person. Now, obviously, we're not doing that during COVID, but we're believers in that, right? So in December, this past December, we had a holiday networking event. We had roundtables for 2 hours where our clients got to interact with each other on franchise sales and development, franchise marketing and lead generation, and franchise operations. And each table was led by a franchisor that specialized in that category and one of the key team members from our team, right? And you got to rotate tables every 45 minutes. And then after that, we had a huge party with hundreds of people. So we're believers in giving back to our clients with all that stuff. And we do that 3 times a year because we want them to learn from each other. So if somebody just wants an operations manual and doesn't care about any of the relationship stuff, you can go to anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
we do a great job, and some of our competitors do a great job. But for us, it's the relationship, it's the long-term value that we bring, and it's our third-party relationship contacts, relationships that we have with companies like Learning Zen, that we make these introductions that I can't quantify for somebody, but I can tell you that our connections are second to none
Yeah.
after 30 plus years in the industry, and obviously being involved with the IFA and writing for Forbes Online and all these different things that I do in franchising and speaking at franchise conferences as a keynote. I mean, I love to give back to the industry. That's been very good to me. My team has extensive backgrounds in franchising. We bring this all to our clients, right? And we have experts in restaurants, we have experts in franchising, we have a CFO on our team. So we really have this broad range of services and support that we provide to our clients, but it's not for everybody. Again, if somebody just wants somebody just to do a small project and not have any interaction, you can go anywhere for that stuff, right? So for us, it's about the right fit, and we want people to understand that, again, franchising is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And if you think you're going to sell 1,000 units in the first year, we're not interested in working with you because you're going to crash and burn. That's not a client that we want. Okay. We want clients that look at it long term, build something over 5 to 10 years. Then you can have an exit, a private equity exit, whether it's from a minority stake or a majority stake or the whole company, whatever it may be. But we want you to look at it again, a marathon, not a sprint. And it's really, really important. And we spend a lot of time talking to a potential client about that to make sure their values are very similarly aligned with ours. Because if they're not, we're just not interested. Life's too short. We want to work with people that we like and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful answer because I know for a fact that that is all absolutely true. Coming from you and your team, we've had the pleasure of working with your team, and the breadth and depth of knowledge with your team is better than any other team I've worked with in the industry. And then you factor in the relationship building that happens. And I go to a lot of those events, not just your events, but a lot of events in the industry. And there's a real different feel when we go to your events. It's feels like a big family. And
It is, Doug. That's how we've built it, right? So, if you go on our website or you watch any of the video testimonials from our clients, I mean, we don't pay anybody to say that stuff. They
Nope.
say it because they're part of our family, and vice versa. We do the same thing for them, and we'll go the extra mile for our clients because
Yeah.
really we build these strong relationships with them. I mean, if they have a hot lead that they're trying to close on a Saturday, one of us will be available by phone on a Saturday to make sure they can work through that stuff. We had a client of ours just last week on a Saturday night close their deal, and they took a picture at the closing table and they sent it to Joanne, and Joanne then forwarded it to me and Dawn and Ed, and we're all sending congratulations. Didn't matter that Saturday night. That was their first franchise they closed. That was a big deal to that client, right? So
Yeah.
it's a big deal to us. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we do. And again, it's all family. That's how we've built this company. It's family, it's relationships. And that's why, we have a lot of fun what we do. And, I believe that we will continue to do this for a very long time. We love it.
Yeah. And I think you will as well. That team works hard and plays hard, and I think that's really important. But you can feel it. I can tell you as an outsider who got welcomed into your community, it was open arms. It was relationship based, and every time I go to one of your events, I walk away saying that was one of the best times of my life because I got to hang out with people that we all care about the same thing. And Steve's team measures their success by the success of their clients. And that's 100% what we believe at Learning Zen as well. Like, if we're going to see you grow from 100 to 200 to 300 units, we really feel like we were a part of that with you and we had skin in the game. And man, that's a great feeling to walk away from in the end, knowing that you're doing this with people you truly enjoy and believe in. And yeah, just kudos to you and your team. I know that I really appreciate you and my team appreciates working with you as well. So thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. We love what we do, and great strategic partners like Learning Zen is real important to us.
Yeah,
And we're glad we made that relationship 10 or so years ago, and it's been a great relationship ever since.
yeah, me too. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, this is Doug Mark from Learning Zen. We're here to talk about 5 franchise questions. And our guest today was Steve Beagelman, President and CEO of SMB Franchise Advisors. Thanks again for coming on, Steve. We truly appreciate it.
My pleasure, Doug. Thanks again for having me.